What up, gang? Carolina Jackpot Time coming at you on Sunday afternoon. I hope everybody is doing good today. It's been a while since I got on here and made a video talking some college football. I know when I last spoke with you guys on Thursday, I was telling you about my busted knee and the fact that I had overslept. Well, today we're going to talk a little bit of college football, specifically South Carolina Gamecocks 2025 college football. Usually at this time of the year, you see a lull over on YouTube in college football content as we kind of decompress from what was the previous season. Well, I haven't seen that as much this year. These people have been just cranking it out. So I'm like, dang, it's either get with the times or get left behind, I guess. So Carolina Jackpot's got to jump back in the game and get some college football stuff going on. I am the South Carolina Gamecocks #1 YouTuber, whether you know that or not. I was watching this Locked On Gamecocks thing yesterday, and I don't know about it. Like 6,000 people watched that video that has less than 100 thumbs up on it, which tells me there's not a lot of engagement there. In fact, the guy that normally does those is not a South Carolina fan. So take with that what you want with a grain of salt. I think you really need to be a fan, and most likely an extremely passionate and maybe somewhat a little bit of a loony fan to be considered a locked-on individual or a Gamecocks, or not just a Gamecocks, not an expert on your team, but someone who can speak to it and entertain the masses as well as providing you with hours and hours of entertainment, which I have done plenty of over the years. It just seems like yesterday, really, that we did that live stream of the bowl game. Very disappointing, by the way. As all you guys know, I kind of was in a dark place after that game. And I'm hoping that that's not a precursor to the 2025 season. I don't think that it's going to be. I think that was a one-off. I think that it was just maybe a case of South Carolina ran up against something that they weren't ready for, they hadn't prepared well enough for, and that's not good. That's bad on coaching. Once again, I've been told hundreds and hundreds of times that these bowl games don't matter. They don't matter. Well, they matter to me. They matter to a large portion of the fan bases, and they overwhelmingly matter to your players. Now, we did have a couple of them quit before the bowl game, and one who quit during the bowl game. That was a bad look. That was just a piss poor, shitty look for South Carolina football. For Nick Emmanwori to walk out on the team at halftime. They later, they made it. Excuses were made for it. Shane Beamer tried to make face, I guess, and make an excuse for it, saying it was a lack of communication. Yeah, it was a lack of communication on his part because he freaking walked out on you and he didn't bother to let you know beforehand he was going to do it. That was what the lack of communication was. He quit. I'm sorry, that was BS. And while I will watch on draft day, I want to see where he gets drafted. He's been a Gamecock. He was a good Gamecock. He was a good player. He was lightly recruited, and he was developed here. And I know he's proud of what he did here. And all of us loved watching this dude play. We love what he did for the team, but it still doesn't take away from the fact that that was a douchebag move. It doesn't mean that I'm going to just hate him forever. No. No. It's not that, but anybody can do something that piss you off, and it kind of stays with you a little bit. Hey, Miami with Cam Ward quitting at halftime there. With a program like Miami, I'm not surprised we saw this. This is something that I quite frankly would expect from them. And it's not a diss on Miami fans in particular, so don't take it as an insult, although you probably will. But, let's just look at some of the things that they've done over the years and their players and some of the action and some of the colorful characters that they've had along the way. And it's really not surprising that you would see that from them. But from South Carolina, it is. It's the first time we've seen anything like this happen. But that's enough about that. The title of the video is can South Carolina make the SEC championship game in 2025? I was watching some stuff on YouTube, and another channel, Southeastern 16 or something, I think is the name of this channel, posed this question. Can South Carolina win the SEC? They think that they can make it to the SEC championship game in 2025. I don't know. And this is in no way a prediction video at all. That's a long time coming. We've got spring ball to go. We've got winter workouts to go. We've got another portal window that's opening up. So there's a lot of stuff before it's time to... Rosters are not really finalized. So I wait until rosters are finalized before I start dropping any kind of prediction for the season on anybody's team. So, but just looking at us, yes, South Carolina is losing a good portion of their production on the defensive side of the football. They've added some pieces, though, and there's some guys there that are going to step up and step into new roles with this defense. And I think we're set to see... I can guarantee you that somebody is going to become a star by the end of this year on that defense that you've rarely heard mentioned in the past. I can guarantee you that. Go ahead and bookmark this on February the 2nd that Carolina Jackpot said that. Someone will become a star on that defense. Now, it is still, in my opinion, going to take a step back. Where in the front seven, maybe in the back four, maybe it's back there. Front seven, a little bit more likely. Replacing a lot more pieces there. But the thing is, what you're losing on the offense, you're going to gain on, or losing on defense, you're going to gain on the offensive side of the ball. In Carolina Jackpot's opinion, maybe not so much in players, but you're going to gain that in terms of experience and production. Looking at what we picked up in the transfer portal, I was really impressed with the addition of that talent on the offensive line. Rodney Newsom, a player from Western Kentucky, joined the team. Nick Sharp, I believe is his name, from Wake Forest, started a lot of games for the Demon Deacons. And then big Boaz Lee out of Troy, who started virtually every game last year for them at center. We've recruited well on the offensive line, too, the past couple of cycles. Are these guys coming in and looking as potential starters, or are they looking at them as backup and rotational pieces to kind of spell these younger guys that we've brought in? I hope that it's the latter. I hope they're there as rotational pieces to spell some of these dudes. Now, I think some of those guys are going to start. One, or maybe not, or most likely Sharp. Sharp most likely to be the one that would be a starter for the Gamecocks. But again, that has all got to be worked out. The point is there's a lot more depth with that unit than what we've seen in the past. I was looking at something that showed the amount of snaps returning on the offensive line this year in South Carolina, somewhere in the middle. And around 44% of the snaps on the offensive line are returning this year. So that's not necessarily great, but it's not necessarily horrible either. And it's going to happen. I mean, there's no way that you can just stagger that out where every year you're going to be coming back with 75% of your reps coming back. It just ain't happening like that. So I think South Carolina is going to be improved on that. So I have no idea who the place kicker is going to be this year. It's got to be an upgrade over last year. And I might have drew the ire of a few fans for bitching about Alex Herrera a little bit, but Buddy could potentially have cost us a couple of games there. Now, one of those games, the LSU game, it should not have rested on his shoulders to send the game to overtime. That game should have been won long before that, despite the terrible calls in that game. that game should have already been in the books. It should have been a solid South Carolina victory, and we didn't see that. So, can they win the conference championship? Well, I mean, or can they go to the conference championship? Rather, I think is the question that was posed there. Well, it all starts with quarterbacking. You return Lenore Sellers. This guy is an absolute stud. Second half of the season, he really, really came on into his own. He, looked really timid and kind of lost in the opener against Old Dominion. And there'd been a long layoff between the last time he played in the game and then, right? I think the last time he saw action in a game was the previous season in the game at home against Vanderbilt. And he looked great. Then he comes out and he looks like he hadn't seen a football before. And then we saw him come out in the bowl game this year, and it almost looked like he'd never seen a football before there. I really think that he's the kind of guy that just can't have, it's like layoffs, long periods with no real competition there on the field, kind of mess with his psyche a little bit or something. He's got to get past that because you are actually opening up with a Power 5 foe this year in Virginia Tech. So we've got to get that worked out. You've got to be crisp, clean, and ready to go there on August the 31st on that Sunday night down in Atlanta, Georgia. And looking at this schedule, the way it sets up, you've got a game at home against South Carolina State following Saturday, so you'll be coming off a short week for that one, but it's South Carolina State, FCS opponent, so you like to see that. The next week, you are at home again against Vanderbilt. Bringing Diego Pavia back should be a pretty solid team this year, one would think. One would think they're probably going to be as good as they were this past year. Or dare we say they could possibly be better? Travel to Como the next week for your first true road contest at Mizzou. They'll be looking to get that win back, get that Mayor's Cup back. I don't know who the Penn State transfer, Bo Pribula, I think is his name, looks to be the quarterback there. And then we come back home to face Kentucky the next week. I got to feel they're going to be better than they were. I mean, it's going to be hard for Kentucky to be much worse. I think they were 4-8. That's one of the worst records they've had there in probably the last 15 years. Very disappointing. Mark Stoops, if he doesn't pull the nose up on that thing soon, he could end up becoming a victim of the success that he's had in the past and the expectations that success set for the program may end up costing him in the long run. You got an off week. The first of 2 off weeks, again, like we did last year. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of this. I thought I was going to be a fan of it. Going into last year, I was like, yeah, this is going to be good. It's going to give these players time to heal up, man, when they're injured. And it's going to I don't like it. The season it's becoming too long. It's becoming too long. And to me, if you're going to expand to 14 and 16 game playoffs, I think they might want to consider going back to 11 game regular season. Because it's too much at some point. Now, I know there are people who are going to sit there and tell me there could never be too much college football. Look, you ain't going to miss one game. You ain't going to miss it. Not at all. Not in the slightest. The season will be just as damn entertaining as it was, if not more. It created, the 2 off weeks created to me several weeks there where we had just a lot of games that were just hot dog water. I didn't like that. So, and that's just kind of selfish as a fan. They're probably not going to do anything about it. In fact, they're probably going to keep on doing it every year. But you face LSU on the road in Baton Rouge, you really want to get that one back. Problem is going there it's really a tough place to win. South Carolina hasn't won against LSU since 1994, man. It's been 31 years since South Carolina has beaten LSU. Now, granted, they haven't played every year. They played a semi-regular basis. Before we played them this past year, I think the last time was 2020. And then I think the last time before that was way back in like 2012 or 2015, and then 2012 before that. So yeah, they don't face each other that often, but still to go that long without winning against them. I mean, if it was a team you played every year, imagine them going 12 years without beating them. So let's put it in those kind of measurements. It's still a long time. Oklahoma at home the next week. Are they going to be improved? We'll see. They're bringing in quarterback. I think his name is John Mateer from Washington State. He looked good at Washington State, and that was against some kind of questionable competition. So we'll see what he can do against an SEC schedule with Oklahoma. And once again, I say an SEC schedule. Everybody thinks because the SEC team wasn't in the finals that the SEC's down. They're having an off year. Why can't we just say the Big Ten knocked it out of the park this year? The Big Ten had a hell of a year. Why has it got to be the SEC's having a terrible year? That's what everybody's narrative is. That's what it wants to be. It doesn't really matter to me. I'm not one who sits out here and beats my chest about my conference. I don't care. I don't like any of the teams in the SEC other than the Gamecocks. Other than when we're playing them or when two teams are squaring off and one of those teams is one that we've beaten, I'd like to see them win because it makes our win over them look better. Other than that, I really don't care if one of them is playing Clemson. I'm going to pull for them, obviously, because Clemson is kind of the shit stain on the world of college football. But I'm not going to get all that damn bothered about anybody else in the conference. And the conference not making the championship this past year, it really doesn't diminish the fact that football down here is pretty dang good. You go to Ole Miss the next week. So that's kind of two potentially pretty tough games back to back. And that's another one that South Carolina wants to, at least, if you don't win, that's one South Carolina needs to have a lot better of a showing in. Ole Miss, once again, Lane Kiffin's racked up in the transfer portal. He'll be replacing Jackson Dart at quarterback. That's going to be a big deal for them. I'm interested to see what Lane Kiffin pulls out to keep that ball rolling down there in Oxford. Texas A&M the next week, another road game. You have a bye week before that one, our second bye week, which is probably good. You're probably going to need that after those 3 games in a row or 4 games in a row against LSU, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, and Bama. So you go to College Station, take on Texas A&M. This is the team that's number 1 in returning snaps on the offensive line, in case you wondered, because I know you did. It's them, Texas A&M, a place that South Carolina's never won at. Salute the troops the next week at home against Coastal Carolina in the final non-conference matchup of the season. And, of course, the finale the next week at home against the Taters. They come to town. Should be pretty good this year. Of course, they return veteran quarterback Cade Klubnik. Got a bevy of wide receivers to throw to who some of them kind of broke out last year in their first season as Clemson Tigers. Running back wise, I don't know what they're going to do there at that position. They've brought in a little bit of talent. Maybe one of these freshmen steps up. Maybe Adam Randall, the guy who looks like they switched from wide receiver to quarterback or to running back, maybe he's the one that kind of steps up to the plate. Yeah, we'll see. But I think their offense is going to be just as good, if not better. And their defense, I don't know if it's going to be improved just because of the presence of one Tom Allen as defensive coordinator there. Look, there's got to be a reason why Penn State has a ton of money, as evidenced by the fact that they went out and hired Jim Knowles away from Ohio State. Penn State could have kept this guy around if they had wanted to keep him around. When he went out job shopping and the Taters were at the top of their list, I'm sure that Penn State could have easily matched or exceeded what Clemson was offering. They chose not to for some reason. Tells me they ain't that damn worried about it. Maybe he's not that good. Maybe he is. We'll have to see. But can South Carolina make the SEC championship game and look, that schedule, it's the same as it was last year. It's pretty difficult, but I think that we proved last year that it's able to be, I mean, you can navigate the schedule and come out on the better side of it. Do I think they make the SEC championship game though? With the newcomers on defense, and which, don't get me wrong, I don't think South Carolina's going to have. Look at this little dog right here. Look at her. Look! Don't look at my fat belly. Look at her. Look at her. She's taking my hat and decided to use it for a chew toy. No, go over there and play with your toys. Despite the fact that I say that defense is going to take a step back, I don't think it's going to be a horrible defense, but I do think there's going to be some growing pains there. So no, I don't think South Carolina is going to make the SEC championship game. I'm sorry, there's just too many teams here, like an Alabama, like an Oklahoma, to some degree like an LSU, even a Texas A&M. Teams that a team that had a very good season last year, Texas A&M is the one I'm talking about, who was rolling. They were rolling when they came into Columbia. Had a running back there, Le'Veon Moss, who had rushed for a little over 700 yards and 10 touchdowns on the season, who got hurt, and then season kind of tanked after that. It tanked against the Gamecocks. He ran for, I think, like 10 yards on one play, got hurt, and then he's gone. Look, I mean, he was going to have a good game that game. Le'Veon Moss would have ran for over 100 yards. It could have changed the outcome of that game. South Carolina won it easily going down the stretch, but let's not forget that was a one-score game in the fourth quarter until South Carolina kind of pulled away. That changed the trajectory of a lot of things, and it changed some things in their season going forward after the South Carolina game. So that made a difference there. Texas A&M was a good team when South Carolina played them. They were ranked, lost one game, had lost no SEC games, and we knock them off. And that was a good win for South Carolina. But I get told that it's not a good win. It doesn't matter because they're not ranked at the end of the season. Well, they're not ranked because they had some injuries. Number one being the Le'Veon Moss, who was the heart and soul of their running game, a key cog in the Texas A&M offensive wheel that went down, and they weren't the same damn team after that. So saying that game, that doesn't matter because Texas A&M wasn't ranked at the end of the year it's dumb talk to me, just silly talk. And it's people like that who make predictions on things based on dumb shit like that end up getting things wrong more often than not because, well, as the popular saying goes, they don't know ball. Texas A&M is a good team. They're going to be good next year. And I just think there's too many of these teams that South Carolina has on their schedule they're not only, I'm not saying they're necessarily going to be gunning for South Carolina, but they're going to be gunning for a much better showing with their season. Even Kentucky, in some regard, is going to be gunning for a better showing in their season than what they had last year. So I think that it's very unlikely that South Carolina makes it, although I thought it was very unlikely they'd go 9-3 this past season, and we saw it happen. So, there's always that chance, but just me from the outside looking in and my old pessimistic self, I can tell you I don't think they are. Now, I'm really, really interested to see what the running game looks like with this new kid, Rasul Faison, who came from Utah State. This guy was over 1,000-yard rusher last year. Looks really good. It's a totally different kind of back than Rocket Sanders was. Oscar Attaway looked pretty good in the bowl game. He filled the role nicely. And then, of course, I'm super high. If you've watched our games, I'm super high on the, is he going to be a junior or a redshirt sophomore this year? I think he's going to be a junior. Jawarn Howell. We'll see. He did not see a lot of action last year, so they may have been able to use his red shirt this past season. He may come back as a red shirt sophomore, but I'm not totally sure. I don't have a roster right here in front of me, and I don't know that all of that's, we're looking at the 2024 roster. I don't know if all that stuff, where's the 2025, if that stuff has been finalized as yet. Let's see here. I actually just want to look on here and see, to be honest with you. Got a lot of newcomers coming in here. Oh man. Who are these? These are all newcomers. Okay, we don't have time to look for all that right now. We'll find out about that later, about the status of Mr. Howell. But I really, really am looking forward to seeing what some of these units can do. I'm kind of disappointed that they didn't pick up a receiver in the portal. They weren't able to land the wide receiver from Penn State. What was his name? God dang it. Wallace the third. Christian Wallace, was that his name? I can't remember. They weren't able to land him. Harrison Wallace was his name. Yeah, he has two last names. Wanted too much money was the issue there with that guy. So he ended up at Ole Miss. Big shocker. Look, where do they get all this money from? Mississippi is one of the poorest states in the country. How do they get all this money to pay all this NIL for all these players? They're the ones who took a linebacker away from the Gamecocks that had supposedly committed here out of the portal from Grambling because they paid him more money than South Carolina did, like twice as much. Well, we can either say South Carolina's poor, they're not going to pay NIL money to these players like that, or we can say, hey, they deemed that he really wasn't worth it, and he probably wasn't. To be paid twice as much as another school's offering you, no. I think that Ole Miss may be spending a little bit foolishly, and it could come back to bite them in the ass. And I would love nothing more than for that to happen, because that is, with the exception of Florida, LSU now, obviously after what happened last year, and well, I guess about those two, that's my most hated team in the SEC. Can't stand them. Absolutely cannot. And people will say, well, why aren't you trashing Tennessee, Carolina Jackpot? Tennessee's not on the schedule this coming season. I've kind of grown weary in my dislike of them. It's kind of run its course, for better or worse. So I'm not going to be putting on a creamsicle shirt, beating my chest, and running around saying "Go Big Orange" anytime soon, and trying to grow out a mullet like old Tony Vitello. But they've earned my respect somewhat, the fan base has. They haven't been nearly as dumb here in the offseason as they are during the season. So, we can take it. South Carolina basketball. Let me comment on that real quick before the video's over with here. Look, I don't know. I don't know what the hell has happened with this bunch. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's bad luck. They've lost a lot of close ball games, which tells me that A, they are a lot better team than what their record is going to tell you. But what else does it tell you? B, it tells you they don't know how to win. They don't know how to finish games out. The last ball game they had that was close, that they finished out and won down the stretch, was the game against Clemson, way back in December. Last night they lose 76-72 to Texas A&M in a game that South Carolina never led in this game. And this one went just about like almost every SEC game this year has gone. They started out, Carolina gets down by 8 to 10 points. Carolina makes a little bit of a run, gets it close. The other team extends it out and has a lead of like 8 to 10 points at halftime. Second half starts. Carolina gradually pulls back even, or close to even, or maybe even takes the lead. Didn't do it last night, but you get what I'm saying. Then the other team pushes it out a little bit. Then South Carolina can just never catch up. They could never catch up, never get within. Well, last night they got there within 2 points, but still weren't able to get the victory. It looked like you had a decent-sized crowd there for the time that the game was. People are just going to stop. More and more of them are going to stop coming every week. It's a sad thing to see. But turnovers have killed this team. It does seem like they've done a little bit better job the last few weeks with the turnovers, as evidenced by some close margins there. But they've still got some stuff to do to get over the hump. They've got to get back on defense a little bit quicker to me in transition. And they've got to defend the three better. That kid last night for Texas A&M, he was, and if our air was right there, I could tell you what his name was. Y'all would know who I'm talking about. He shot the damn bottom of that basket last night. I mean, this guy was hitting them he was hitting shots from damn near half court. Taylor was his last, Wade Taylor, I think was his name. Yeah, he was hitting shots from damn near midcourt. Had like 25 points, season high, shock, against us. Yeah, 25, 7-11 on his field goals, 4-5 or 4-6 on the free throw line. Colin Murray-Boyles with a good game with the Gamecocks last night, 22 points, 11-16 from the field. He has 7 rebounds, so not that far from a double-double, but geez, man, they've got to get something. They've got to win one here eventually, don't they? Yeah, you'd think they only had 12 turnovers last night, which is way below their average. They had almost 25 of them here a while back against I can't remember who it was, but they had 25 turnovers in a game. Absolutely unacceptable. Anyway, that's about all I got to say, guys. I hope that you'll hit the thumbs up on this video, and that's about it. There's not a lot going on around here. I've been kind of out of the loop. I've been working hard. I've been kind of tired lately, to be quite honest with you. Today would have been another good day to be able to sleep all day long, but unfortunately, wasn't able to do that. I had to actually go and get, I had to go take my truck and empty everything out of it so that I could get into another truck that we use, kind of like a spare truck, to do my route in tomorrow and maybe possibly Tuesday to get those tires replaced on mine. But I do drive a lot. As I told you the other day, we were talking about it. Let's see exactly how many miles we drive this week. Last week it was about 650 miles from Tuesday morning on through the rest of the week. So yeah, some significant mileage getting put on that old Ford Transit. So we'll see what happens with that. Got to keep them running. Got to keep her in good shape. Your truck is your best friend when you're out there on the road. If you didn't know that, you know it now. Anyway, I'm going to see you guys later on. Live show tonight at 9, the Rob and Kel Show. Appreciate it. Peace, and I'm out of here. Go Gamecocks. Woo!